All right, here we go. Preseason game number 2 is in the books. The Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Arizona Cardinals by a score of 17-10. I want to go ahead and welcome in my co-host for this. He is our podcast producer at Arrowhead Pride, Mr. Steven Serda. My name is Pete Sweeney. I'm the editor-in-chief at Arrowhead Pride, and we're going to discuss everything that happened in this preseason game. Before we do, if you're listening on our podcast network, please leave us a rating and a review. For those of you who are listening live and watching us live on either Twitter or YouTube, we'll bring the press conferences right to you, so you don't have to go anywhere. The Arrowhead Pride reaction show is taking everything, bringing it right to you right after the game, a 17-10 win. Steve, my first reaction from this game is, I think since 2018, this has been a Kansas City Chiefs team defined by Patrick Mahomes and everything the offense can do. This high-powered offense, the Legion of Zoom, the speed. How is anybody going to keep up with the Chiefs? It doesn't even matter what the defensive room looks like because the offense is so good. And when Bob Sutton was here, we just need the offense, or we just need the defense to be average, and this team is going to be a Super Bowl team. I think we're seeing the beginning steps in these last 2 preseason games that the defensive room, the thing that we've talked about for a long time, can the defense get up to the level of play of the offense? It's starting to come to fruition. And granted, I know it's the preseason. I know we only get limited looks. The first team defense, it looked like they stayed in for what was almost 2 full quarters. At the end of that second quarter, you saw still some starters mixing in with some of the reserve players. So you got a nice look tonight, and look no further, and we'll talk about the offense, but look no further than 5 sacks for the defense for the second straight week. You have Kyler Murray, who is supposed to be what is an NFL phenom, right? He's the 2020, or I should say the 2019 Offensive Rookie of the Year. And he had 3 straight 3-and-outs to start this game as part of 4 straight 3-and-outs for the defense. Once again, second preseason game in a row. I think this story had to do with the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, you mentioned that this team goes with Patrick Mahomes, and that that's what wins you rings, right? That's what the Chiefs are about. This thing is built around offense. And the second preseason game in a row, granted, it's the preseason, so we don't want to read into it too much, but their defense looks really good. Like, it looks really, really good.
It looks like for the first time it can be as good as the offense. And I can't remember when I thought that last about the Chiefs.
Chris Jones, and the Cardinals didn't have a great offensive line last year. I don't expect them to have a great offensive line this year. But Chris Jones just looks like he's playing on another level. It doesn't matter who's trying to block him. It doesn't matter who's trying to do anything against him. Like, Chris Jones is coming into the season saying, okay, you want to stop acting like I can't be in that Aaron Donald category? I'm going to convince you that I can be in that Aaron Donald category. And in limited snaps, he just looks like the best football player on the field. And that's when Patrick Mahomes is on the field. Like Chris Jones just looks absolutely insane. And Mahomes is a little off tonight. Like, it's preseason, whatever. They're kind of still figuring things out on offense. I'm totally fine with all of that. It was just their defense has looked spectacular. And it's the preseason, and you don't want to get overhyped, but it's not just the starters. It's not just Chris Jones. It's not just Jaron Reid. It's not L'Jarius Sneed. It's when the second guy's coming, when the third guy's coming. Everybody's making plays on every team for them right now. And all that says is, well, you got a lot of depth. So if you suffer an injury, you got guys who can still make plays. Like, there's a lot of reasons to be really excited about the way the Chiefs defense has looked so far this preseason.
Yeah, you had Turk Wharton come in, and he was in pursuit of Colt McCoy, and you said to yourself, man, even late in games, this Chiefs defensive line is going to be something to be reckoned with, because they're 4-5 players deep that you feel on the interior and even on the outside could make an impact. I want to go back to Chris Jones. You just see him lining up all over the line. I mean, it could be left defensive end, right defensive end. He lines inside at tackle, Last game, we had the sack out of the tackle position. This sack was, I believe it was right defensive end, where he made that inside move on the offensive lineman and was home free to get the quarterback. I asked Chris Jones what his goals were for this year. And I remember the first time I asked him a few years ago, and he had said something like 15 sacks. And we all laughed. And then he ended up getting 15 sacks. Now he's saying that he wants the NFL record. And so you think about it. I mean, he looks like a player right now who could vie for something like that, because these defensive players, if they get the sack numbers up, they're in line to be the defensive player of the year. And I see Chris Jones lining up all over the line. It's confusing opposing offensive lines. We're seeing it in the preseason here. And I think he was a player to be reckoned with when he was just lining up inside. And now he does a lot of different things. Now, I want to also talk about, are we getting the presser, Steve? I heard something in my ear. Yeah, we got Andy Reid coming up. So let's go to Andy Reid.
Number 40 Gore looked like, Gale Sayers, man. I mean, he was doing a beautiful job in there, making people miss, and it was fun to watch. So, anyways, that time's yours. Yeah, well, listen, I see him in practice, so I mean, I kind of know what he can do.
Also, just his need, apparent need to maybe take a hit or two versus your feelings about seeing it happen.
Yeah, so you're not going to stop that. I mean, that's if you're going to play him, he's going to play the game. And so when he decides to go, he goes, and you don't want to take that away from him. That's a hard field there to slide on. It was a little bit rough there in the middle. I mean, this is where they practice, so that feels had a few feet on it, trampling it over the last few weeks. So, but he did some good things. I mean, we had a ton of plays, a ton of yardage, and he'll tell you this, but he was trying to throw that one away. He wasn't, and it just it caught on him and stayed in bounds. So. Yeah, listen, I want to get that going a little bit. We really haven't had a ton of opportunities to do it. So I wanted to make sure that we at least got some work on that. I thought our guys did a good job with it. Yeah. And we've seen Juan get a lot of snaps in his first two games. Yeah. Yeah, and I think this will help him. I mean, that was a big interception. That was beautiful, huh? I mean, laying out for that was a great deal. And I mean, we need one. We need him in there feeling good about himself and playing. And I think this will help him. Yeah, so it was execution, and I thought just by I don't know, we had 40 some plays I think in the first half, and to 17 on the other side, or it was somewhere in that area. I mean, you don't quote me on that, although I'm telling the world here, but it's somewhere in that area. And so the execution was good. I could have put the guys in a better position to finish, and I didn't do that. And so, but I thought EB did a nice job with when he called too. So I thought he did a real nice job with that. Yeah, the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So we just kind of tag teamed it, and I thought he did a great job. No, I gave him quarters. Quarters. Yeah. yeah, he got a chance to get in there and do his thing. So all the ones that we scored on, he did a great job with. Yeah, great job.
Last one, this is back-to-back weeks now where your young quarterbacks have had a chance to either win the game or ice the game. How beneficial is that time just in the preseason for those young guys?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. This takes it up a notch from practice. And so getting in there with all the people in the stand, you know, the whole deal in a foreign stadium here, I think is every rep is important for them. And especially that front group that's been stepping in, and the linebacker, we got a couple of linebackers in there that are young guys. So every rep they get's a good rep.
Right, thank you.
Pays off for you. Yep. Okay. Safe travels.
Discussing the team's 17-10 win. That's Chiefs head coach Andy Reid discussing the team's 17-10 win in preseason game 2. As you heard, really talking about the net yardage difference between these two teams. It ended up 458 to 239. We were talking about Chris Jones ahead of Andy Reid. Some of the things that he noted prior to us taking the feed, that Clyde Edwards-Helaire suffered a right ankle sprain, will be further examined in Kansas City, but it doesn't appear to be a high ankle sprain, which would be very serious and probably have him out for a long time. But it remains to be seen what happens with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Chiefs held Tyreek Hill out with a hamstring injury. They called it precautionary. Cornerback Rashad Fenton, he tweaked his hamstring while returning punts before the game, so he did not go either, and they were holding him back. The one we're going to have to discuss is the Clyde Edwards-Helaire ankle injury. I just want to continue on the point about the defense, though, first and get through that. Chris Jones, I talked a lot about Tyrann Mathieu always being the best player on this team, Steve. It really does seem Chris Jones is the best player on this team right now, and I just don't know how opposing offensive lines are going to stop him.
Yeah, he's been vocal about what he's prepared to do this season, and some of it's been kind of tongue-in-cheek, yeah, we know you're an exceptional player, but you're going to try to come out and get yours. And throughout training camp and so far in the preseason, he has just flat out looked like he can challenge Aaron Donald this year as being legitimately the most dominant interior defensive lineman. And then, oh no, he's going to go outside too.
What's crazy is, and you're mentioning right now, he might be the best interior player and the best player on the outside. And he jokes and likes to talk about Sack Nation, and he has fun with the media and the fans about it. But this team as a unit is starting to look like Sack Nation. Anthony Hitchens with the sack, Jaron Reed, even the depth players in linebacker Darius Harris and DiCaprio Boodle getting in on the mix. He doesn't say that it has to be a defensive lineman that can get involved with Sack Nation. And now that's 10 sacks preseason. I've said it now 3 times on this podcast, but I just think if your defensive line is cooking, we always get on Brett Veach about maybe not investing premium picks that the Chiefs make themselves in the cornerback room. But if you have a solid cornerback room, and it does look like that with Charvarius Ward and L'Jarius Sneed and Mike Hughes, who's actually really playing well, and you have a defensive line that is led by Chris Jones, who we had mentioned looks like an absolute monster, I think you're going to see the whole defense look really, really strong. And I think we're getting clues to that now in these first 2 games, Steve.
And so I want to talk about that secondary for a second, because the defense obviously been phenomenal so far in the preseason. They were completely shutting down the Cardinals' first string offensive unit in the first quarter of that game. Chris Jones, exceptional. But we've had these questions about the third cornerback, and it's kind of been a rotation between guys. Mike Hughes and DeAndre Baker have both shown promise in that role. But we finally got a glimpse tonight of Juan Thornhill and that incredible athleticism that we saw in his rookie season with that unbelievable interception that he pulled off. I still am trying to figure out what the Chiefs are doing here with their rotations and the way they're kind of moving that secondary around. To me, it kind of says, well, we're still figuring it out. We understand who we have locked in. Everybody else, we're just kind of putting the chess pieces as we see fit and kind of figuring it out as we go. And I don't have a problem with that, as long as it inevitably means that Juan Thornhill is going to be the guy.
Well, what was interesting tonight, and not only did Juan Thornhill start with the first team, as did defensive tackle Colin Saunders, who deserved it. These guys have been playing well lately. The Chiefs have made points of that in practice. Thornhill's been a little bit more mysterious because we've seen him with the second team. If you notice tonight, he started with the first team, and he was still out there with the third team. Andy Reid, as you just heard, was asked about it, and he said essentially, we need Juan Thornhill feeling confident about himself. Let's go back to the press conferences where we have wide receiver Mecole Hardman.
Did you expect to get as many targets as you did tonight?
No. That's why we got to get better. So.
What do you think? Was it an angle that was off, or what happened that made you think you could have caught it and didn't?
I don't know which one
on the one you were talking
on the
about.
corner one.
Yeah, the corner.
I just I came on my break wrong. I could have just been more square to be the jump and get the ball wherever it was at. So kind of just got to be in better position.
It looked like did you get a little jostled on the first one in the end zone? I think you're doing a corner on the other side.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the corner.
That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
on the corner. But the one in the back of the end zone, going towards the right, that was I don't know if it was just the throw or should I have been more flat or what. So
That was the preseason. Just how it felt to get in the end zone though for the first time this year.
feels good. And that's good. A lot of fans in the stands, so it's more better. And we had a lot of fans today, so it was definitely a good feeling to get back in there.
I think before the game, and maybe I can't tell if this was before you knew Tyreek was out or after, but you guys were running down the sideline together. You were just joking around.
Right.
When he still thought he was playing then?
Yeah. I mean, we all thought we didn't know until literally kickoff. We were okay, so now you just have to just adjust to it. So.
But you weren't quite racing him then, right?
No race, not race. Nah, it's just something you just trying to see. It might be a celebration or something. If you break away free, just go catch him or something. So.
Okay, guys. Thanks, Mecole.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have Mecole Hardman coming off the podium there. We talked about safety Juan Thornhill having the defensive play of the night. Mecole Hardman, after what looked to be a couple miscommunications with Patrick Mahomes, he starts out the game 2 for 2 on his targets, and then 4 straight targets. Mecole Hardman and Patrick Mahomes just not in sync. You heard him talking about the route on a touchdown chance. There was back-to-back passes in the end zone, and so it was another week where you're like, oh, I just wish Mahomes and Hardman would get in sync. And then Mahomes comes out of the game, and then Chad Henne, baby, with a flick of the wrist, and all of a sudden that ball's floating, kind of dies. I mean, it is a Chad Henne pass, right? It kind of dies a little short, and Mecole Hardman, it's a shoestring catch. So Juan Thornhill, who needed the defensive play of the night, he gets it. Mecole Hardman, who could have used the offensive play of the night, he gets it for the touchdown.
Yeah, Mecole, that should have been the play of the preseason for the Chiefs, right? Because early in the game, Mahomes targeting him, trying to get him the confidence and the reps and the looks to be that number 2 wide receiver that they desperately want him to be. And it just wasn't working. It just wasn't clicking tonight. I have faith that it can at some point, but I still have my question marks about Mecole as being a legitimate number 2 option behind that guy. So, well, I'm curious. We'll figure it out. But Juan Thornhill just made the play of the preseason for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and going back to that diving grab, as we were alluding to, this is a player who now you're understanding from Andy Reid that they're putting out there who needs a little bit of a confidence boost. Don't forget he's coming off that ACL still. I mean, that's still an injury that it sometimes takes time to really feel like yourself. And he needed a play in game like that, a diving interception where we were able to see his athleticism again. Let's go back to the press conferences where quarterback Patrick Mahomes is speaking to the media.
Get hit. That was one. But really, I mean, they thought they kept me pretty clean. It was a pretty clean game for the most part. The only mistake we really made was when I was trying to throw the ball away and I left it where he could still pick the ball off. So, I mean, other than that, I thought we had a pretty good game.
Patrick, you talked about that you wanted to be alive these preseason games as far as the conversations you and Orlando had, for example, about where you sat.
Mm-hmm.
What
I thought we've done a great job. Obviously, we don't have our full game plan in, but we've done some good stuff, and we've made some calls that we'll be calling throughout the regular season. Defense like tonight's a little bit different than a lot of defenses we play, so it was good to kind of make those calls with them. And I thought the guys have been on the same page and making the right checks when they're needed. So it's definitely been a good first 2 games, and I'm looking forward to the third.
Is that as much as you get out of this preseason? Is the fact that you do have 5 new guys there? I mean, is that kind of objective number 1 is to get a feel for those guys?
Yeah, 100%. And just being on the same page when it's kind of the real thing. I mean, obviously at practice, you're going hard and you can really communicate. There's a crowd, but it's not loud. People are their juices are flowing in the game. So just kind of whenever the game's going on, to be able to communicate with the whole offensive line, being on the same page and being able to execute whenever the play's called. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's super valuable. I thought we did a great job last year on 4th downs, and so it's definitely something that we'll probably continue to do. But it's Coach Reid having confidence and EB having confidence in us, and me knowing that if it's 3rd and long, I know if we get it kind of in that 4th and short situation, that we're going to more than likely have a chance to go for it. And so it's definitely valuable. I think the most valuable thing we did was kind of have those long, sustained drives. I mean, it's awesome to score with one play, and I'm sure we'll have a couple of those during the season. But to have those drives where you have to kind of grind it out, I think that's the biggest thing that you get away from this game.
I think you really targeted Nicole a lot tonight. I don't know how much was just slow the game or how much by design, but what you get out of that, and maybe take us through some of the end zone plays, what did or didn't work.
Yeah, the first end zone play, I got to throw the ball probably with a little bit more touch, throw a little hard. I try to really rip it in there, and it was a little too high for him to kind of get both his hands on. The second one where he kind of ran across the field, it's a play you always see us run with Tyreek. And we just got to work on that timing to find that right spot because he has the speed to beat that guy across the field. And then I don't know what the other one was, but I thought he had a good game. I mean, obviously there's a few mistakes here and there, but you saw he made the big play on that cover 0 play where Chad put it up for him. And you want to see those things. You want to see a guy that when his number's called, when Tyreek's not playing, he's kind of in that Tyreek position that he's going out there and trying to make plays, and he's making them. And I thought he did a good job of that, of battling through, kind of being in that top spot.
And even if you guys don't fully connect on all the stuff you want to on a night like this, I mean, does that give you a lot to work with him as you guys get closer and closer to having the right rapport and touch?
Yeah, for sure. And we always kind of talk about during training camp and during these preseason games, kind of training guys to kind of be on the same page as we are. And I think that's it. I mean, the throwing that over route where I kind of threw it out of the back of the end zone at the end of it, that first drive. It kind of is kind of showing that that's the spot that I kind of need him to be at, that back corner of the end zone. And even though we didn't catch it, he'll know that the next time. And I think the best thing with McCole is he doesn't make the same mistake twice. I mean, he really has learned a lot being behind Tyreek and learning how to play that position. Oh, it's our 99 change. That's what I got for the Madden 99 club. So I figured I'd stack them every once in a while. I'm extremely excited. I mean, it's going to be like one of those things where if you thought tonight, I was really going at it, it's going to be hard to kind of Coach Reid to calm me down because whenever you get in front of that Arrowhead crowd and the Chiefs Kingdom, and I know it's a preseason game, they're going to be rowdy as ever. It's going to be, your juices will be flowing. I'll have to calm myself down a little bit. Mm-hmm.
That's Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes going through his final line on the night, 10 of 18 for 78 yards. He had the one interception. I had been wondering about that interception because I saw it, and I'm thinking as I watch Patrick Mahomes taking hits that he probably doesn't need to take and diving for first downs on 4th down, I was thinking, okay, maybe he knew it was his last play. He knew it was the preseason, and he said, all right, I'm just going to try it. Because how many times have we seen that ball that he throws in the back there, scrambling to his right or left, and just end up right in receiver's arms? And it was into Byron Murphy, who made the interception. But he revealed in that press conference that he was just trying to throw the ball away, and I guess left it too far inbounds. Andy Reid said that as well. Just it's you have a good quarterback and one of the better quarterbacks maybe of all time if it's stunning that he threw an interception like that in the preseason game. It's just not a play that we see from Patrick Mahomes a lot, but nothing to worry about there. He kind of laughed it off in the press conference.
But it's part of why he's so fun to watch because he's so aware at all times when he's on the field. Like it's just hard to explain to people how difficult that is. That like he knows it's the preseason. He knows, well, I can get away with this. Well, maybe see if I can make a ridiculous play or not. Like, yeah, maybe he was trying to throw it out of bounds, but I think part of him was like, oh, I can make a play here. And
I think so too. I mean, I don't, you don't want to say right after a press conference and the guy says he's trying to throw it away, but man,
yeah,
he's like one of the most accurate quarterbacks I have ever seen.
Yes.
Like if you're throwing it away and you're outside the pocket, you could launch it into the stands.
I mean, and we've seen him, you know, have some accuracy issues in some big games, but this certainly wasn't a big game. It was a preseason game. It felt like, you know, he knew he was getting playing time tonight, and they knew they wanted to get McCole Hardman the ball to kind of boost that confidence with him as your number 2 wide receiver. Right. And so that was a key to the game when they were going in. We got to get McCole the ball. We got to get him to make some plays. We got to get him to know, like, he's the dude this year. And it felt like that kind of affected the rhythm of Mahomes, because Mahomes kind of has to be a freelance quarterback sometimes. He has to be that guy who, hey, just let me go make plays, Andy. Let me just go freelance and find the guys that are open and make ridiculous throws. It can't always just be, okay, this is the guy we got to feed today.
No, I completely agree. And what was amazing about tonight, I mean, you count up the receivers, more than 15 different receivers had receptions. Now, that can only happen in a preseason game because after a while, certain players will come off. But more than 15 receivers, you know that Mahomes was hitting a lot of different bodies, and so were some of the other quarterbacks. Let's go back to the press conferences where we have the defensive player of the night, safety Juan Thornhill.
And I just had to fight through the pain. And this offseason, I just attacked it, trying to get my knee back to 100%, and I definitely can say I'm back.
Does it make you, it's a funny way to put it, I guess, but make you feel freer to be what you want to be?
Oh yeah, when you're out there focusing on football and not the knee, I mean, you always play better. Because like there was times last season I was just like down myself, like, can I still jump that high? Can I still run this fast? Can I push off that leg like I want to? But this season I'm just focusing on football. That just automatically allow you to make more plays.
I suppose put too much stock into one play, but how much can that interception do for you mentally?
I mean, whenever you make a play, it always boosts your confidence just to show that you still can do it. Like for any guy, like if there was Pat was to throw a touchdown, that will automatically take his confidence up to a new level. Just like me, I just made an interception. My level of confidence just went up.
I have a similar question, but you say you go back and make plays in practice, but to make it in the game like that in the last situation, just how good did that feel?
I mean, it felt great. I mean, you can do it on national TV, and everyone saw it. They saw that I still can play like I used to. I mean, that just is a great feeling.
Chris, thanks, Juan.
All right.
All right, guys.
Juan Thornhill, and that should wrap up the Chiefs press from Glendale, Arizona. Juan Thornhill coming off, and I think you could see it right after the play where he was walking up and down the sidelines after he made the defensive player of the night, the diving interception, yelling, smiling, walking, talking to his teammates. We saw a little bit of, I thought, Thornhill swagger toward the end of his rookie season in 19 prior to the injury. Got a little bit of it back toward the end of last year, but it still didn't feel exactly like that first year when, as a rookie, he really looked like one of the better young players in the league. And tonight, I think, again, it's all about first steps when you're in the preseason. I think we saw a significant step back to that Thornhill swagger that we had back in 19.
Yeah, that interception was just filthy, and you love to see it from him because in his rookie season, he looked like he could be one of the more athletic safeties in football. Like we were going to have this Thornhill Matthew tandem for a while here in Kansas City, and that hasn't really worked out that way. But it's not because Juan Thornhill's lacking in talent. And so seeing him make the play, like maybe it's a confidence thing that he never fully built that confidence back up coming back from the torn ACL. Mm-hmm. So I think tonight was huge. It was spectacular. And we've seen the Chiefs use him all over the place so far in the preseason, but hopefully that play tonight was the play that we needed to get that rookie year Juan Thornhill back.
I think it was clues that we've seen from the team too, because when they start training camp, it is just the rookies and the quarterbacks that show up. And Thornhill was up there, and it wasn't like he was coming off the significant injury. It was a year apart. I think it was still a matter of him just needing the reps. And so we've been wondering up in St. Joe. St. Joe closed on Wednesday. So we're back in Kansas City now, but we had been wondering up in St. Joe, why is he with the second team? Why is he with the third team? When maybe it just was a matter of the Chiefs are trying to up his quantity of reps because they know if they keep running this guy out there, eventually, right, he's going to get his feet back under him and boom, he's going to make a play like he did tonight. And I think you saw that. It's just what the Chiefs were looking for by giving him all those reps. And what was the big, okay, maybe we don't have to worry about this after all, was the idea that he started with the first team tonight. Yeah, he was still in there in the third quarter because, again, you're building on those reps. But even in his presser right there, you can hear that he needed that confidence boost, and he got it tonight in the Chiefs 17-10 win. It was a great game defensively for the Chiefs. As we mentioned, Kyler Murray, the starter for the Cardinals, 3 and outs. That was how his night went. The Chiefs had 5 sacks in this game. We had mentioned the sack from Chris Jones. He also had a batted down pass at the line. We noted Thornhill had the pass defense, and so did DeAndre Baker. So this secondary was really coming into its own. Prior to the press conference, I had noted how Mike Hughes is really looking a part of that third cornerback. DeAndre Baker is right on his heels. Again, Rashad Fenton tweaked something in the pregame, so he didn't go. That is a 3-man race, so to speak. Hughes is in first for that third quarterback position right now. But Baker, with a pass breakup in the end zone, he almost had an interception or could have had an interception if he turned around a little sooner on one of the plays. I really like not only the starting cornerbacks for this Chiefs team, but you're starting to like the depth really on all levels, right? You talk about the defensive line. The linebackers, Nick Bolton has really flashed in training camp. And now in the secondary, it's a team that is built for, I think, the starters, but also behind them. I really like this battle that's shaping up between Hughes and Baker.
I'm not convinced that the Chiefs are going to be like, a top 5 defense in the NFL or something like that. But I've seen enough at this point that, like, I'm pretty convinced they're going to be better than they were last year on that side of the ball, which is kind of crazy when we were spending all this time talking about, like, they need to add another cornerback. They need to add some more depth here. They need to add another edge rusher. They need to do all of these things. And they were saying the entire time, now we got all that in-house. We got it covered. We'll add Mike Hughes for nothing. And DeAndre Baker can be a playmaker for us. We already really like Rashad Fenton. And we'll just move Chris Jones outside, and we love all of our depth across the defensive line. Like, that's impressive. It's an impressive job from a Brett Veach standpoint, and it's an impressive job from the coaching standpoint. Like, it's hard to come out of the preseason and not expect this defense to be a lot better than it was last year, just based on what we've seen in a limited fashion. Because, as you said, it's not just the starters, it's every level. It's every group is making plays. Every group has had an impact. And so that suggests that you have depth at every group on the defensive side of the ball. It's just really impressive.
Yeah. And, I think coming into this preseason, we just talked so much about the offensive line. And I think you're right. I think what's been impressive is they built up not only the offensive line and its depth. I mean, when you really are talking about some of the reserves on the OL, it's hard to come up with 5 names who they're going to keep behind the 5 starters. By the way, the offensive line and these 3 rookies, and this is something I tweeted and I want to reiterate on the show, on the podcast, so much is made about the quarterback rookie contract. If you're going to be starting these guys as rookies from center to right tackle, so we're talking about Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Lucas Niang, you're locked into those contracts for at least 3 years. I mean, and you have to feel really good about that side of the line. If this is how they're playing against NFL talent, if this is how they're playing against the first team defense, let's get into some of these secondary storylines, Steve. We looked at some returners tonight. Mecole Hardman is far a better returner. And I know some fans don't like Mecole Hardman as a returner. It is Mecole Hardman. Tyreek Hill, of course, but Hill's not going to return. So it's Hardman and everybody else. We saw a look at Demarcus Robinson, Mike Hughes, Darius Shepard, Jerick McKinnon. I thought Hughes looked the best of the rest, but none of these guys are pushing Hardman to start at punt return. And as it seems right now, Byron Pringle, whenever he has the ball in his hands, it seems like good things happen. And so while it's good to see that these guys have returning skills in case of an injury, no one to me is standing out and significant. Like something that Dave Tobin said is, well, Darius Shepard is only making the team as returner. I don't even know if he's the third best returner on this football team.
It does make me wonder what, I know Dave Tobe said like, oh, I know what McCole Hardman can do. That's why I don't need to see him as a returner. It makes me wonder whether or not they're just ready to say like, he's just not going to return now because we need too much from him on the offense. It's definitive. Those guys might be decent return men, but none of them are McCole Hardman. Like that's the best part of his game. He's just faster than everybody else on the football field, and it translates really well in the return game. So I don't know. I question whether or not that's the best move because I don't want the Chiefs special teams to like lose something there by sacrificing McCole Hardman to more reps when I think it feels like they can definitely have like a serviceable rotation for that second wide receiver option with the way Byron Pringles looked, with the way Marcus Kemp's looked, with the way they're feeding McCole Hardman. Like that's not ideal, but if you can rotate all of those guys, you can kind of manufacture that second wide receiver role.
I think where maybe we got caught up is just assuming it's going to be one guy that replaces Sammy when, and this might be Andy Reid's dream where he can sift through two tight ends on the field. He can have two wide receivers and
let Jerick McKinnon out wide. He'll be fine.
Yeah, speaking of McKinnon, I want to get into the running back room. So we noted that there's an ankle issue with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There was a potential concussion issue with Darrell Williams, which is why we got a heavy dose of Jerick McKinnon, who I thought looked great tonight. Not only did he catch a touchdown, but he had a really great special teams play where he blocked a Cardinal up in the air and then right to the ground. I was just super impressed with not only McKinnon's play offensively, but just the willingness in, he's been in the league for 7 years and he's doing some of the dirty work, as they would say, because he knows he's the third running back on this team. And he looks to have some burst. He also looked good in pass protection. And then you had Darwin Thompson running the football. He had a bad start. When Darwin Thompson had his first few carries in this game, I just said to myself, man, this is the guy who's not going to make this team. I mean, pretty clearly. And then he really came into his own. Now,
then he hurdles defenders, and you're back on the Darwin train.
Did he hurdle a little bit tonight?
Yeah, a drop kick, and but it worked out. Did
I think that Darwin Thompson was going to set a record tonight? No. Then he jumps up in the air 12 times and set the hurdle record for a preseason game. So congratulations to Darwin Thompson on that. But in all seriousness, 8 carries for 49 yards. He was running the ball hard. I think it's making the decision tougher for Brett Veach. I think the lineup is still Clyde and Darrell, and then McKinnon, and then Darwin. And then you had Elijah McGuire, who was at that funny moment at the end of the game where he just ran straight out of bounds. It reminded me of Forrest Gump, which I don't know why it did, but it just was a weird play that looked like why is he not running to the touchdown? But
that's a man who knows he's not going to be on the team.
you see the injuries though to Clyde and Darrell, and we'll update you on arrowheadpride.com as we get more information about those. But you can start to see why Brett Veach always loads up these rooms. It's to make sure in the case of injury that you have bodies there. And so maybe they end up keeping 4 running backs. And this is something that I also noted on Twitter. Like when you have guys like Darius Fountain, who's making tough catches for another week in a row and really pushing Defoe, as the great Brandon Kiley likes to call him. And then you have Jody Fortson, who making catches. He is showing that he can block. We have noted about Jody Fortson's 20 pounds of muscle. You start to try to fit these puzzle pieces into what is typically 25 offensive players. Man, I'm happy that I'm not Brett Veach. He's got those snazzy suits. He's got to make some tough decisions. I understand the suit game is strong, very much more strong than some of the suits that I have in my office here. But my goodness, it's not going to be an easy decision to make when it comes to some of these rooms. Do you keep 4 tight ends? Do you keep 4 or 5 running backs? How many receivers do you keep? Do you have room for a Darius Fountain who's making the case? Do you cut your own damn draft pick in Cornell Powell, who is getting passed up by multiple receivers in my eyes, in Marcus Kemp and Fountain? Just a lot of
Cornell's like a practice squad player at best this year. There's a realistic chance.
If they waived him, would any team, based upon this tape, if they waived him, but with any team based upon this tape,
I mean,
blame him.
I think he'd get another chance just because he's a young player and he's got the athletic profile of an NFL wide receiver, but he's done nothing to make you think that he's going to make this team so far. Like I thought that after the first preseason game, I was like, oh, he might not make the team the way my guy Defoe is out here playing. Like Marcus and
I'll say this:
Fountain should make this football team.
I'm going to borrow something from your Arrowhead Pride show. There were a couple certifications tonight in my eyes, and Fountain was a certification, and Kemp was a certification, and then we had an imposter in Devin Key. Devin Key for a little bit was, I think, making the push. He got beat by Ross Travis. And what is the deal with these Cardinals former Chiefs tight ends? Demetrius Harris surfaced. Ross Travis surfaced. Steve, I saw a tweet by you about Ross Travis.
He scored the touchdown, and I was like, hang on. Ross Travis played for the Chiefs at some point.
Yeah, he did.
I know he's played for the Chiefs since I've covered the Chiefs. There's no way I should recognize the name Ross Travis.
Right.
And I was like, I know he did. And I tweeted that, and then I looked it up. I was like, sure enough, 2015 to 2017. I knew it before I tweeted it. I was so confident that he played for the Chiefs at one point. I tweeted it before I looked it up.
We had a couple things I want to mention because I think we've gotten through most things that happened in this game. We had I already mentioned Bob Sutton once. I'm going to mention him again. I saw some Bob Sutton tweets coming through when Tim Ward was suddenly in the backfield and defending a receiver, it looked like. Josh Kando, the rookie defensive end for the Chiefs, he had a moment where he looked pretty good. We got Casey J-Dub saying he did look like Joey Bow out there. Who's he referring to, Steve? Fountain? I guess Fountain.
I think that's Defoe. Defoe, not Debo. Defoe.
Okay, right, yeah. I mean, it is a case where as we make this 53, and I'll make my new one, I think, coming up soon. I don't know when I'm going to do my 3.0. I can't get like Jay Bingley of 610 Sports Radio and have 17 mock drafts. I'll probably do like 4 or 5 before we get the final 53. But it's become a question where the defense looks great and you have a really rich offense and a lot of good depth. Is it a case where when you want to probably keep 10 offensive linemen because of what happened in the Super Bowl, are you keeping 26 offensive players and only 24 defense? It's a tough puzzle to figure out. I think very different from the early days of the Chiefs. And I'll leave this. I think this is my final message from tonight. It's different in the sense of the early days of the Chiefs when, remember in 13, we had the Magnificent Seven is what they were called by the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, where the Chiefs were scrounging the waiver wire to get anyone here, real football players, as your boy John Dorsey likes to call it. And they had to really rebuild everything. And now it's just an abundance of riches with what this scouting department is able to do. Both, I think, in a really successful draft from what it looks like so far this year, and really with these undrafted free agents and some of these guys who we didn't really know about. Jody Fortson finally coming to his own in his third year. I know Darius Fountain is not necessarily a new player, but to get him on this roster and now have him push potentially out a draft pick, it just shows you how far the Chiefs have come. Not only depth from the Super Bowl, when you look at the offensive line specifically, but just the depth over the years. I just think this 90-man roster, and we're down to 85 now. We'll get down to 80 soon. Very, very impressive job by Brett Veach at every position.
Yeah, it's not supposed to work this way. When
Right.
you got Patrick Mahomes and when you already paid him, it's
Right.
not supposed to work this way, and it generally doesn't. Across the NFL, we see teams struggle to do this, and it's a credit to Brett Veach and the front office and the coaching staff and identifying players that, okay, we can use those guys. Those are the guys that we can implement into this system. But before we get out of here,
Yes.
Lucas Niang's your starting week 1 right tackle, right?
You're ready to name him the right tackle?
He is locked in, correct?
Wow.
Like we can go ahead and write that off. Like Lucas
I think-
Niang had some flashes of brilliance tonight.
I have a theory about this. I'll leave you with a tinfoil hat theory. After I gave my main takeaway for the game, this does not matter. So if you're done, if you're on the podcast and you got my main takeaway, go eat breakfast or whatever you're doing. If you're listening on Saturday, here's my tinfoil hat theory. When Mike Remmers came back to the Chiefs, his agent tweeted out right away, "Starting right tackle, Mike Remmers is back." He mentioned the word "start."
We lost you there for a second, Pete. You're freezing on us. We're never gonna get. That's actually kind of perfect. We're never gonna know what Pete Sweeney was saying. We're never gonna know where that was headed from Mike Remmer's agent or what was going on. Are you with us, Pete? No, we lost you. You're gone, Pete. We don't. So I feel like that's the perfect way to end this thing. Yes, Lucas Niang, I believe, is locked in at your starting right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Had some flashes of brilliance tonight, as well as Trey Smith. Their offensive line is going to be good, right? Like, we can definitively say that. Are you with us, Pete? We got you.
Am I back here? Yeah.
Yes, we got you. You froze for
it just started. Yeah, so for those of you that are not in Kansas City, it is about 10:55 local.
It is raining so hard right now. My dog
is internet. Very quickly, Mike Remmer's agent tweeted back when he was re-signed here. Tweeted, Mike Remmers is back as the starting right tackle for the Chiefs. And so I think maybe part of him being sold on coming here was to start. And as it turned out, he missed 10 days of training camp practice. Lucas Niang looked pretty good, probably looked like a better option in the eyes of the Chiefs, and now he's just been inserted there. And what is happening with Remmers, so if you've seen Remmers at left tackle, they're getting him some reps there. Same thing with Andrew Wiley. I think both of these guys are just getting reps because they need to be swing tackles for this team. But I think Mike Remmers, and this is why you're getting some of the language in the press conferences and why they're saying it's still open. I think he was promised a real opportunity to become the starting right tackle again, where he did play well last year.
Sorry, Mike.
Big man Lucas. I don't know why, but he was like fat shamed a little when he first came back. I mean, he's an offensive lineman. What do you want from this guy? I think he won the job too. I think that
I never fat shamed you. I promise. It was never me. I don't know who was shaming you, but it wasn't me.
Sorry for Steve Serda fat shaming you. And with that, we are happy that you stuck with us. If you did, we're working through the live stream, as you can tell. As they say, and the cliche goes, it's the preseason for us too. If you enjoy the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network, you can subscribe, rate, and review for us. We would love that. We'll be back on Monday with the next edition of the Arrowhead Drive. And don't forget to follow the Arrowhead Pride Army for all of your Chiefs regular season coverage. Again, I'll say it again, subscribe, rate, and review. Do that for us. Please comment on the website. Let's get involved on Twitter. Let's chat. Let's do all that good stuff. For Steven Serda, I'm Pete Sweeney. Thank you for listening to the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Recap Show.